Boundless Authenticity Podcast, where we discuss everything related to the evolution of human consciousness. Thanks for tuning in to the Boundless Authenticity Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Romshri Ashesh. Romshri is the founder of Awakening Love Academy, and she specializes in clinical hypnotherapy, theta healing, hypnobirthing, tarot card reading, crystal therapy, aura and chakra balancing, and more. I wanted to get Romshri on the show for a long time now. However, it was all about divine timing. Romshri has been a great influence in my life over the past few years or so, a mentor and a great friend. She has been so good to me, so loving and inspiring, and anytime I have things that I might be working on, I can always count on my friendship with her to be a loving, supporting, and healing experience. This is truly my honor to have her on the show today. I wish for you all to enjoy her insight and wisdom. You can find Romshri by typing in on Instagram, Romshri Awakening Love, or you can visit her website, awakeninglove.co. Let's hop into the chat. So how's it going, Romshri?
It's going awesome. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
Yes, so finally we are here.
Yes, finally. It's only taken, 2.5 years to get you on?
Yeah, it's all about divine timing, as we say.
Yeah, well, you can't do anything before it's time.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Romshri and I'm from India. And I've been working on human consciousness for so many years. Basically, I started my journey with clinical hypnotherapy. That is the science of subconscious mind. And then so many other modalities came into my life, like theta healing, family constellation, tarot, and so many other things. So I now have my own academy where I teach. And there are other instructors who also teach courses based on subconscious mind. So it's going amazing. It's a beautiful journey. And I'm meeting amazing people like you because of this work. And I truly appreciate whatever you are doing on your platforms. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Well, I'm grateful to have met you. You were my first, one of my first followers. I think I had like 13 followers or something when I started my new page. And you were one of the first people we kind of just became friends right off the back. Yeah. Yeah. So I mostly just yell at people about the subconscious mind. What I figured out is that in the Western world, hardly anybody really understands what that is. And I meet a lot of experienced meditators or people who have had counseling and stuff like that. And nobody's ever really explained that to them. It's like, how are you going for therapeutic counseling and nobody's explained to you how your mind works? Well, no wonder you're still struggling. So that's why I have you on to kind of explain to people that there are more levels than just that, So so tell everybody what your favorite thing is about doing this work.
My favorite thing about doing this work is whenever I'm working with people, if I'm teaching or I'm doing therapies on people, there are so many things which I'm learning for myself, for my own journey. It's like I'm peeling my own layers through them. They are just, mirrors, or you can say reflections. And it's been like many years now. Like I started my journey in 2008 and I still think that I'm learning. But I observed one thing, Jehan, that, whenever I am going through something, my clients, my students will come to me and they will tell me exact thing, what I'm going through in my life. And when I work on them, I realize so many things. I gained so many insights for myself. So this is the best thing about this work, that it's all about self-work. So we just play the role of therapist and client and whatever, but it's all about self. The journey is about self. That's the best thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there because there's so many moments where I'm like, wait a minute, that was in me? you know? And it's sometimes you think it's because it's a situation that I haven't necessarily experienced. It's the emotional content and the stories that kind of match up, and it gets me every time. And I have to agree with you. I really love that.
Right.
I think that's both the thing that can be scary at times, but it's also the fuel to kind of keep going, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's talk about theta healing, because you introduced me to this way of doing things a while back. And not only has it changed my life, but there's a lot of people that come to me and I just say, hey, listen, you need to read this book. And it just, the book in itself changes people. It's magical.
It does. It's magical. Theta healing is like, when theta healing came into my life, I honestly rejected it when it came to me for the very first time, because I was looking for something more, spiritual. And my mind was like, theta healing is something very scientific, and I'm not looking for any scientific thing. I'm looking for spiritual thing. So in my mind, there was a big gap, and I could not understand at that time. So I learned past life regression, clinical hypnotherapy, things which were hip that time, and people were more aware about those terms like past life regression and all. But when theta healing finally came into my life, it truly changed my life on day one. And I was like, oh my God, how could I reject this? How could I avoid this modality for so many years? But as we always say, it's about timing. Timing is everything. So it came at the right time when I was ready. So theta healing, when we say theta is one of the brain waves. Our brain is always producing some brain waves like alpha, beta, theta. And theta is a very sleepy brain wave. When your brain is in such a deep state where you can actually create things. You can learn new things very quickly. This is the brain state where small babies, they have this brainwave all the time from 0 to 7 years. And this is the reason small babies learn so many things so quickly on this planet. They learn so quickly how to talk, how to walk, and how to use their limbs, because they stay in theta brainwave. And when you create that brainwave into through a meditative process, you return to that childlike innocence. And that is the time when you can create so many changes in your DNA. And when I say DNA, that is your consciousness, not the scientific term, because I know there must be so many people like me who would run away from the scientific term sometimes. There are people who like science, who love logic, but there are so many people who think, no, we are looking for something spiritual, not science. But the thing is, it's only one consciousness. So if I have two hands, one is physical, one is logic and science, and second is spirituality and metaphysical aspect, and I cannot reject one hand. I have to accept the both aspects of the life. So theta healing, came into my life, and I realized that my DNA is everything. My DNA is a printout of my subconscious mind. It is like the expression of my consciousness. There is so much to talk about theta healing. I don't know where to start. If you ask me questions, I can answer. But yeah, it's a lifestyle. I would say it's not just a modality for me. It's a lifestyle.
Right, and I would agree with you there, because we are adults, because we grow out of that natural state, we are constantly seeking something that I think that a lot of people don't really truly understand what they're seeking. And it's that feeling of being at home. And when you're in the theta state, you feel completely at home. You feel like you're connected, as Vianna calls it, with all that is.
Right.
And it's a very comforting feeling that I guess you get to re-experience what it's like to be in that realm, if you want to call it that. And what I found for myself is that I wanted that. I was ready for that. And it was kind of like, you just blurted it out one day. You were like, you should read this book. And I was like, oh man, you're doing it again, because you're the only person on this planet that I listen to, period.
Oh.
Like, if you say something, I'll take it at face value. And I'll be like, okay, boss, I'm going to go check this out. Even the last thing that you told me about that book that you told me to, I already read it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as soon as you tell me to do something, I know, it's God is telling me to do something. So, I guess my next question really is, how does theta healing benefit the average person? I know that's multifaceted, but how? Explain.
Yeah. So first of all, theta healing is all about self-honesty and self-responsibility. So if a person is, a complete layman who has no knowledge about any kind of healing modality, still this, process is going to help that person to realize how we create our own programs, how we create our own belief systems, and how belief systems are being manifested in our lives in good ways also, and in some negative ways also. For example, diseases or disorders or blockages in their finances or relationship issues, all the aspects of our life. So a person would realize in a theta healing session that, okay, everything is coded in the DNA, in our belief systems, and we have to be very honest with ourselves that this is my own creation and I have that power, I have that way to release what is not serving me. And I call it self-responsibility. If a person do not hold self-responsibility, no matter what healing modality you are using, it's not going to work on them. So theta healing, really, really help an average person to realize that they hold some accountability towards themselves. And they are the ones who are creating their lives. And they are the ones who also hold the power, who also hold that key to, unlock that mystery box and check, okay, I am the creator of all this nonsense. And now I have that power to release it and create something good. So in theta healing, we say that everything is illusion. If you are happy, that is a happy illusion. And you have all the rights to enjoy the happy illusions. And if you're not happy, that is a sad illusion. And you have the power to let go of that illusion. But how? Only when you will realize that, okay, I had created this bad experiences unknowingly, because some way it was serving me. For example, if a person says, that I'm not able to save money, theta healing will offer a process called digging, where we ask persons certain questions, where a person goes into subconscious mind and reply. And through that digging process, we reach the bottom belief. And sometimes a person says that if I have money, I'll be alone. Perhaps that was the first experience in that person's life. Perhaps the father left house for earning money. Now money becomes an enemy, the subconscious enemy for this person. Now this person is not able to save money. Perhaps person is earning a lot of money, but not able to save money. So theta healing will make this person realize, okay, in my childhood, this particular belief system served me. How it served this person? This belief system made this person to feel less lonely. So I guess when a person realizes now that experience is over and I'm ready to release it, that person can release it. So I think I made it clear.
Right. So how do these beliefs get in us? Is it just from childhood? Is it traumatic events at any point in our lifetime? Is it stuff from the ancestors? Is it all those things?
All those things, because we started our journey as being a single cell, and as an embryo. So cell is here just to learn from the environment. But if you ask how this cell was created at the first place, that was because of our genetics, because of our parents, right? And how our parents were created because of their parents. So of course, it's coming from the genetics also. So Theta Healing says that, all the belief systems are your experiences, and hard experiences. Our subconscious mind is very smart, even though you create negative belief systems, but we have to realize and remember that those belief systems also served us at that time. And that's the reason your subconscious mind kept them, in a very twisted way. So yes, we inherit our belief systems from our ancestors. We call them genetic belief systems, like we inherit our body structures, our eye color, our hair color, how we look like. Similarly, we inherit their belief systems and habits. We also call it epigenetics. Genetics is what you inherit, and epigenetic is the consciousness which can actually change your genetics. That is the virtue of your ancestors. Then coming to the next segment of belief system is your core belief system. That is your current life, your childhood, your prenatal memories, what you picked up from your mother's womb, what you picked up from your environment, and till date. So whatever you are learning in the environment, creating so many programs or belief systems in you. Third is the third layer of belief systems are the history level. We call them group consciousness also. When a large group, a large number of people think a similar thought, for example, that cancer is incurable, or the world is harsh place to live. So it's the group consciousness, which we call history level. And history level also carries the memories and belief systems coming from your past lives. If you believe in reincarnation, if you don't believe, still it is a group consciousness. And the fourth layer is your soul level. Soul does not carry any belief system, but if something is very, very deep, it reaches very near to your soul, and we call it soul level. And sometimes it's the collective essence of all the three layers, the genetic, the core, and the history. When they become very hard and very deep, and it reaches, that particular belief system reaches very close to your soul, it becomes your soul level belief systems, which is very, very close. For example, if your ancestor used to think that people betray, you will inherit that program in you. And if your childhood experience was that it's difficult to trust people, that's a belief system in you. If group consciousness in your history level, you carried a program, for example, people are not trustworthy. So these are sounding similar, but these are like codings. So you can't deal them in a similar way. These are codings like mathematics. So you have to address them in a very specific way. So if you combine these three, that people betray, it's difficult to trust people. And what was the third one? I don't remember, whatever. So if you collect the essence of these three, something very deep will be created near your soul. For example, trusting people weakens me, something like that. So these are programs or belief systems.
Yeah, I can relate to that one. I had a little touch of that one.
Perhaps that's why I picked up this example.
Maybe, but I think that a lot of people have that these days. A lot of people walk around really believing that the world is a dangerous place. Maybe it's because of an experience they had. Maybe they were bullied at school, or maybe they just watch too much CNN and they see all of this stuff that it may or may not be happening in reality, and they shut down. They go, oh no, the world's a scary place. You can't trust people, you know?
Right.
And people don't understand. I try to do my best to explain it to them, but people don't understand that everything that we observe, we assign a meaning to, and then that becomes stuck in the subconscious, because the subconscious just wants us to be happy and be safe, you know? And that's why when you said in a twisted way that subconscious doesn't realize what it's doing sometimes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I have a belief that chickens are amazing, and that's why I keep collecting chickens. I have no idea where. Huh? It must be because, it must be because it started off with one chicken, and I think my mom had a chicken. I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And like a crazy person, every time it came time in the evening to feed the one chicken, I would announce to the universe, time to feed the chickens, plural. And now here I am, just like covered in chickens. I think I got so much joy out of that it kind of hardwired my system to be a chicken whisperer or something.
Yeah. So it's serving you in some way.
Maybe. But I mean, let's talk about the DNA again for a second. Like, so you mentioned that it's, you know, you have to bridge that spiritual aspect with the very rational scientific aspect. And we have people like Rupert Sheldrake and his theory of the morphogenetic field.
Yeah.
And what really is that? What does that mean for us?
Yeah. So, see, like on spiritual path or on scientific path, wherever we are just, you know, kind of trying to explore more. And if we talk about spiritual path, it's all about self-realization. We're trying to understand ourselves. So if you're talking about trying to understand yourself, you have to understand what are you. Like, if you take the scientific approach, you are your DNA. Everything you are, how you look like, how your hair are, how your eye color is, everything is coded in your DNA. And it's not any confusing lines. Maybe my hair color is like this, maybe my eye color is, no, it's very specific. It's very, very specific. Similarly, our spiritual path should be very, very specific. But how would that happen when we will, you know, bridge this gap between the spiritual aspect and the rational aspect? So when I talk about DNA, I tell people that if you really, really want to know about yourself, study your DNA. Right? DNA is actually the expression of your entire consciousness. Whatever you are just a bundle of memories. When you address yourself, when you say that this is my name, you are actually telling people that I am this bundle of my memories, right? And your consciousness is also telling so many things which perhaps you don't know. Perhaps your consciousness is actually telling people in a very, very silent way that, you know, these are my belief systems I have inherited from my ancestors. These are the belief systems I have inherited from my mother's womb. These are the belief systems which I have inherited from my past lives, from the group consciousness where I lived, where I was born. So it's all about you. It's all about that bundle of memories. In India, you know, we have a very, very beautiful line in a scripture. It says neti neti in Sanskrit. That means this, not this, not this, not this. Neti neti. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. That means you have to expose all the illusions you have been carrying. right? So DNA actually is a vehicle to know yourself, to expose all those belief systems, all those illusions you have been carrying inside you. Neti, neti. This is not me, this is not me, this is not me. And then you will reach that consciousness, which is pure, where we reach in theta state, the pure consciousness. So DNA will help you to know that what stories you have been telling yourself, not only in this lifetime, but perhaps collectively, as your genetics, as the group consciousness, you will realize how many resentment you are carrying, how much regrets you are carrying, how much rejection you are carrying for yourself. So many things which are actually jokes, which should be like jokes, but we have been taking those things so seriously, subconsciously. So first of all, if you really, really want to know about your DNA, you have to start from knowing your subconscious mind. That is your habit mind. And DNA is actually the physical aspect of your subconscious mind. If I just simplify it in one sentence, DNA is the printout of your subconscious mind, whatever you're carrying in it.
That's amazing. There's nothing I can say about that. Let's move on to another harsher topic. And forgive me, you have to know that this is just my personality for the show, but there's so much emphasis on trauma-informed this and childhood trauma that. And because I tend to take that position, like what you just said, that, I'm not this, which reminds me of the Krishnamurti thing. Honestly, I'm not that, right. This thing is not, what I am. When people say things like that, I hear something different. I hear them wanting to prescribe themselves with this thing that may or may not be true, And a lot of people want to blame the way that they behave currently on things that may or may not have happened in childhood that they don't necessarily remember. They're just piecing together bits and pieces. And so when people come to me and say, I'm mad at my father because he did this thing when I was 6 and now we don't get along, I kind of go, well, you're 42 years old. Why are you why are you still upset about what happened when you were 6? And it always turns out to be something bigger. So could you unpack that family dynamic through the lens of the constellations, the family constellations thing that you are so skilled at?
Right. So first of all, I just want to tell you one thing, that if a person is blaming or criticizing or just piling everything on their childhood or on their parents, the bottom line is that they are wounded and they are operating from their wounded self. They are operating from their survival self. So on subconscious is again the answer, right? So you cannot explain everything to them dealing with their conscious mind only. They will never understand. Secondly, family constellation, the second most favorite thing for me on this planet. I learned so much about myself, about my own journey because of this modality. And it's a German therapy. And Bert Hellinger has done a lot of extensive work on family constellation. So many other people also have worked a lot in this field. Family constellation is something which helps you to acknowledge what happened in the energy field of your family. And it reminds you that family is actually your first platform to be manifested. So we all are part of divinity. We all are part of one consciousness, but family is something which was our first platform to be manifested here on this planet. And we cannot deny certain facts. We cannot deny that we have received this gift of life from our parents. Family constellation also reminds you how to drop labels and see, acknowledge what happens or what happened. For example, if my father played a toxic role in family, and all my life, I have been just blaming my father that, because of him, this happened, because of him, this happened. I forgot to acknowledge that I came from him. When I forgot giving him his appropriate position, I became bigger than him, or I placed energetically myself equivalent to him. The moment I placed myself bigger than my parents or equivalent to my parents, I lost my position as a daughter. If I lose my position in the energy field of my family as a daughter, huge part of my consciousness will stop growing up. So these are all natural laws. Nature says that energy flow always comes from up towards down. So who came first? My great grandparents came first. Then my parents came, and then I came. So how the energy will flow? These are my roots. Even a plant needs their roots to grow up, but because of the hurtful memories, we only nurture our wounded self. And it's very convenient, and it's a very safe zone to label people, because these labels are actually helping us to be safe, to not to get hurt again. So we think, okay, I was hurt as a child, I was unfulfilled, unnurtured as a child. Now I will chase some spiritual concepts in my life. Now I will chase some worldly success in my life, and one day I'll prove that I didn't need all of you. But the truth is, life reminds you to stop and take a U-turn and just acknowledge, just see without labels in front of your eyes. Just see without thinking who did what. Just acknowledge, and looking at your father's eyes, not in reality. I'm not saying if your father was a rapist, go and look into his eyes. I'm just saying that energetically, in your mind, if you tell your father or mother or any relationship, just acknowledge the fact. For example, I acknowledge you are my father. You are big, I am small. The moment you say this in family constellation, we call them truth statements, which actually unburden something from you. And you just give appropriate position. You're not re-scripting anything. You're not forgiving anyone. You're just acknowledging. And just by acknowledging, you feel that something gets unblocked, that flow of energy. It's beautiful when it happens, and when you see energy getting unblocked just by speaking some truth statements. It's a big relief. It's a big relief for people who come from family constellation, and it actually gives you something which only your blood can give you. That warmth.
Yeah. It is that kind of a warm, whole body, in your soul type feeling. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share this with the listeners about my life, because I heard about family constellations not through you, but through, I can't remember who it is. He's like an older guy. I was listening to something that was on Gaia TV, I want to say, a show. I think it was Open Minds or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was mentioned. And what it made me realize is that I had somehow reached that conclusion on my own in a different way, where it was related to my father, because I always felt like he was the main abuser. And I took the long path, he did this to me and I'm going to have to learn to deal with that on my own. And it was nothing but labels. Oh, he's a narcissist and all kinds of things like that. But until I eventually reached the point where I was ready to ask myself, okay, so if he's a narcissist, what is that? And why is that? Why is that something that he needs to be for me? And it wasn't until I actually rewired my brain on that and healed from it that information was then revealed that he was this way because when he was a little boy, he lived in a house with his mother. They were very poor. It was him and all his siblings had to share a bed, him and his sister and brother. And there was only 2 rooms in the house. His mother was a prostitute and she would bring men home and do what she did with them. And so they were exposed to that. They had to witness that. And they had a housekeeper that would interfere with him. And so when he was older, he was still carrying all this stuff.
Right.
And so it manifested in alcoholism and being very abusive and things like that. And I never knew that. And nobody ever thought to just tell me that. It was the way that it was revealed was so casual, because when he died, I didn't flinch because I'd made peace with it. I understood what death was. I understood what his role was in my life. I essentially became the person that I am now because of him. And, I love that. I love that that happened. And it was just interesting because it was so casual where my mom was like, oh, well, this thing happened to him and when he was a little kid. And I was like, you just thought to tell me that now? If you told me that 6 years ago, I would have figured things out a whole lot easier. And at the same time, I had to say to her, but, you're still carrying things, resentment towards him. How do you feel about that story? And she kind of got it. Like, she's not really a spiritual type person. Like, she's very rational and everything's got to be whatever sentence comes out of her mouth. That's the way it is. That's because that's how I see things, So you can't really have conversations past a certain point there. But she did understand what I was saying, that she just didn't understand why she had to suffer. And I was like, well, connect those things. He did these things in his life. He experienced these things in his life. Why do you think that is in relation to you? She's kind of like, I don't know. So I'm glad that at least I got it, because I wonder because I did get that shift, how much of the entire family dynamic did change.
Right.
And I think that's why healing and, like you said, self-realization, I'm glad you said it the way that you did too, because people tend to bridge self-realization with the concept of enlightenment. And they think that, okay, now I'm enlightened. That's all there is. And, the fat lady saying, I can move on now, I'm enlightened, when it's an every day, every minute of the day type thing where you're just trying to understand yourself.
Right.
And this is going somewhere, I promise you. I wonder what the main issues are for people who come and you hear what they're saying, you hear the beliefs that they're putting forward, and you say, oh, you need family constellations. Like, how do you know?
How do I know? See, I combine everything. For healing is like a music for me. So when I'm doing a session, I combine everything wherever, whatever is required. Every science is amazing. Like, you cannot compare biology with chemistry. Every science is amazing. So similarly in healing, in my sessions, I combine everything, whatever is required. So people come mostly for 4 things: relationship, health, money, and very rare spiritual issues, right? When I say money, all the physical aspect of life, like it's their job, career, anything. Family constellation, sometimes if I intuitively I get the guidance that there is something uh, which is blocked in the family flow. For example, in your case, it's a brilliant example of family constellation, whatever you just told me. Because family constellation reminds you that no one is bad. Like it took me years to realize, that no one is bad. This is the belief system of our wounded self who says, no, some evil exists, some people are bad, some people are good. But the truth is, no one is bad. Perhaps they are wounded, perhaps, like you told the story of your father. But as children, we could never know the complete story of our parents because we are not supposed to know. It's enough if we get to know about our own stories. Forget about the stories of our parents. We can never know, and you don't know about the full story of your grandmother. They did whatever they thought was best, whatever they could do as per their own wisdom. So family constellation is such an amazing thing, and it can address any issue. It can address financial issue. It can address relationship issues. It can address money issues beautifully. Money comes from the father side. Money and spirituality is a very interesting thing that it's the same thing. Money and spirituality is both the father element. Money and spirituality both gives structure and meaning to your life. And it always comes from your father's side. But if your father failed for any reason to give you that stability, that foundation or meaning, you will go on chasing the spiritual teachers, spiritual concepts, but you still feel unfulfilled no matter how many books you read, how many modalities you practice. But the moment you take the U-turn, look at your father or look at your mother. From mother, the worldly success comes. The worldly success and how you receive abundance. It's all about your mother. Because you learn receptivity from your mother. So if you take a U-turn and you can look into your mother's eyes energetically, I'm again mentioning this thing because sometimes people's wounded self, they get scared. Okay, I have to talk to my mother in real. No, you don't have to. Just mentally or energetically in a constellation session. If you tell your mother, just the acknowledgement that you are my mother and I received the gift of life from you, and you just keep on looking into her eyes, something gets unlocked. And you give yourself that position of a son, of a child, below your parents. And only then you can receive that energy, right? And it's not about justifying whatever they did. Don't think that you're justifying, okay, he did this because of this, she did this because of this. No, you're not justifying. You're not supposed to justify. You are just acknowledging what is. We call it acknowledging what is. Family constellation helps you to connect with the soul of your family, with the soul self of your family members. Whatever you experienced on this planet with your family members, you actually dealt with their wounded selves. Perhaps you could never get a chance to have a conversation with their soul selves. The moment you see and address them at their soul self, you realize that they were also growing like you. They were also learning like you. Perhaps they lacked the tools you have now. So Vaina also says one very beautiful thing I have learned from her, that always give benefit of doubt to people. Always. It will always help you to reach your empowered self. It will always push you out of your wounded self cycle if you start giving people a benefit of doubt. So this is what I have learned from family constellation also.
I like that. And I like that you said that it's not about justifying the things that people say and do to you. It's
Right.
just kind of like programs, you know, just, these things are happening unknown to them. And when you said the thing about the success being from the father side, that made sense because my ability to create became magnified when I made peace with the things that I perceived he had done to me.
Absolutely.
And I was away from both my parents for many years. So I only had myself to look at when things didn't go right. And the same thing, kind of thing happened for me because I realized that in a weird way, I'd become the big one and both my parents became the children. But it wasn't until 2 weeks ago when you said that to me that I realized that a lot of my lifetime, I'd kind of become the big one and they were the little ones. And now whenever I see my mom, I immediately remember I'm the little one.
Right.
And that makes a lot of the strange things that I necessarily don't like seem much more trivial because it's not my responsibility, you know?
Right.
And it's interesting because we can learn to do that. We can learn to be that way for other people. And I like to say that nobody's ignorance is your responsibility. Whatever it is that they're ignoring in their life, that's not yours to fix. And it's easy to do that with the average person on the street or with friends or whatever, you know, but with your parents, it's so difficult. It takes practice. Yeah.
It takes practice and also knowledge. Knowledge is the first step. So like I always tell people that you are always a child. Like our parents say that you will always be a child to me. That is true. You will always be a child, and a child always look for the parents, no matter what your biological age is. In the world, your eyes are actually looking for the parents. In the spiritual concepts, your eyes are looking for the father. In the worldly success, your eyes are looking for the mother. And you will project what you're carrying for your parents. So if your subconscious thinks that you are bigger than your parents, the natural law says that the big one give and the small one receive. This is the formula. And when you are seeing this word from the similar eyes, you are feeling that you are bigger than the word. Now, how will you receive success from the word? You are the big one. You will always be a giver and you will find it difficult to receive. So it's very important that we become child again to our parents, no matter what happened. Just release your emotions, your wounds, heal them in therapies. But again, tell your parents in your mind, you are the big ones. Even if your father or mother was a toxic person, check what did you learn from that toxicity? What did you learn from those difficult situations? Did you develop any qualities in you? If yes, that came from your parents, whatever role they played. Whatever you are today, you are because of those experiences. So just tell a mental thanks to them. Because of this, because of you, I learned this. Acknowledge the gift you received from them, directly or indirectly, but you received something. So acknowledge that whatever you received, that will nurture your receptivity for truth, receptivity for spiritual growth, receptivity for material success, all of them.
That is powerful. So do you have any other insights about your work, especially with how you combine different things together? Because it's not just Theta Healing and Family Constellations. Are there any particular insights that you could offer to people? that maybe they are repetitive lessons?
Yes, there are repetitive lessons because we are growing in circles. The growth is always circular. So we again, face similar situations, similar patterns in our life until we develop our virtues. It's all about virtue. So if you have any wound, father wound, mother wound, or any issue or any pattern, again ask yourself, what am I learning here? What virtue or what quality I'm developing because of this? So when you say, how do I combine things? I mostly start with clinical hypnotherapy because it's a very good tool to help people to, let their emotions, their pent up emotions to be released. Sometimes people just want to vent. And if you start dealing with your logical mind, it's going to drain both both of the persons, like the client and the therapist both. So it's better that you that I take the approach of clinical hypnotherapy, put them into their subconscious mode, and then allow them to release all the baggage, all the emotions, all the catharsis happens, and then the second step is to very gently take them to that frequency where they can look at the learning, where they can see, okay, this is what I have been learning. For example, even today I was doing a session on a woman who was having this knee difficulties. So she has some joint problems in her knees and she cannot walk properly. And I have been doing a lot of work on her. So in initial stages, she released a lot of hatred, resentment for the husband, for the son, for all the masculine side of the family. And then today she was ready. She, she has less intensity of emotions and she was in a calmer state because she had already released the emotions. So now she was ready to see in theta state what she learned from all of those sufferings. And she realized that she learned that rigidity empowers her. That was the program. But she learned this. So I asked her, how do you feel if you're gentle? She says that people will just crush me. And that's how her knees are feeling right now, crushed inside. So then I asked her that, okay, so just check how rigidity served you. So it's very important that you acknowledge. We very easily label emotions. Okay, this is resentment, this is rigidity. Now let's release it, heal this, But it's very important that first you see how that particular emotion served you. So she said, okay, rigidity saved me from social shame. Rigidity made me very strong. I could raise my children alone, and being rigid could save my properties, my wealth. So it served her a great deal. How could she release it so easily? So, but theta empowers you to download new feelings, new positive feelings in a very strong and quick way, very instantly. So I downloaded her how to be gentle and safe at the same time. So I combined theta healing in the session. And then I combine also family constellation where she could look into the husband's eyes and tell the husband, whatever happened, I allow you to take the share of your responsibility in that. I am the wife. I am not the husband. And the moment she said this, she was relieved. She could feel that share of baggage going back to the husband because unknowingly, subconsciously, she became both the husband and wife, like the parents for the children. So this is how I combined so many things together. It's a very intuitive process, very intuitive process. But when it makes sense to your client, only then it helps them.
Yeah, I I agree with you there 100%. When you said the thing about venting, I was trying not to bust out laughing because I have had quite a few people. People are stressed out in general, yeah. Like,
right.
and they just They know why, but they at the same time, they don't know why. And they just want to vent to somebody and they think that that's what I'm here for. And it doesn't matter. They're just not in that space to acknowledge the problem, no matter what is said or what is done. And they just don't want to do it. Would you agree that in times like that, there's nothing that we can do?
We means the therapist.
The therapist, the practitioner.
Therapist is not doing anything anyway. Therapist is just a navigator. So yes, healing is not something that you are just pushing a resolution. You're not looking for any resolution. You're just helping the person to see what shit they have been carrying, and just helping them to clean their own shit. So sometimes the shit, sorry, I'm using this word, but sometimes too much to handle, sometimes so stinky that, you can't handle it. But healing comes into stages. So you see, okay, what is the amount of it? So you allow them to go through the catharsis where they went out. It's very important. And there are so many powerful modalities where they can release their baggage, they can vent very powerfully. So they don't have to vent again. If you're only dealing with their conscious mind, they will vent out again and again for their entire life. But if you are first putting them into their subconscious mind and then allow them to vent, hopefully it will be just once or twice.
Right. And that hit the nail right on the head, because I remember in my earlier days, I thought, if I just asked these clever questions, they would see on their own. And it was never until you take them into a brainwave change that they begin to detach from that a little bit, and then they start to tell the truth. And when they realize that they're telling the truth, it's almost like they go, oh, what was that, But every once in a while, you get that person that just, they'll fight you on it. They'll fight you for that story. That's whatever they're getting out of that story. Like you said, it's serving them in some way, and they don't quite want to let that go yet. And it's tough to watch. There's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but very honestly, I was the one who used to vent a lot. I was a crybaby. I used to cry a lot for small things in my therapies when I was learning, and when I, used to have those practice sessions with my fellow therapists. So I remember being a crying bag all the time and venting, but sometimes it's also healing. It was required. So it happens. So if somebody's now venting in front of me, I remember that, okay, I was same once. But now I have tools how to help them to vent powerfully.
Yeah. I would never have pegged you for a person that cried for every little thing. I was the opposite, where I never cried. And I think that when I really started to heal, I did nothing but cry.
Right.
Yeah.
Crying is healing.
Yeah.
But not always.
Yeah, not always. Sometimes it's just reaffirming that same thing,
Right.
Well,
crying is the initial stage.
Yeah. Well, Romshri, this has been a very informative chat. Thanks for being on the Boundless Authenticity Podcast. I have to tell everyone again that you're the only person that I take advice from because it's never advice. Advice giving is very useless because I'm not in the other person's shoes. So who am I to give them advice, really? That's something you do with your friends. You may throw out some casual ideas, or you may say a statement that sounds like, oh, well, I react this way to those things, but that's not helpful either. It's just words. And just about everything that you have ever said to me has helped me in some way, because it's usually something that I know, but I didn't really have the right linguistic style of interpreting that in my own mind. There was just a block, and it was like, I know there's this thing. And so you're very good at what you do, even just in day-to-day interactions. And I consider you to be one of my greatest mentors. So thank you.
God.
Yeah.
No, it's a complete honor. And, whatever you are doing, Jehan, like I must say that, I follow you very silently, and I can see the powerful nudge you are giving to human consciousness. I truly, truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate it.
You got me tearing up. You got me crying in front of everybody.
No, don't cry. Otherwise, I'll laugh.
Yeah. Well, your friendship and your guidance means a lot to me. So thanks again.
Same
tell
here.
everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. Like, if you can tag me, people can find me on Instagram. People can check my website also. That is www.awakeninglove.co. And just that.
Okay.
Just type Romshri Awakening Love Academy and you will find me, hopefully.
Okay. It will be in the show notes.